So, tell me the worst. It's not that bad, is it?
Your late husband's finances were quite a tangle. It's no wonder the police were so long with him.
What have they found?
I'm afraid they've uncovered fraud and malpractice on a pretty colossal scale. Accounts all over the place in false names, selling people worthless policies. Clients' money siphoned off into his own accounts. It's quite a list.
I see.
And that's just from what they could find. A lot of the paperwork's gone missing.
And what does this mean for me?
Well, on the bright side, I think we can safely say you won't be facing any criminal charges.
You mean I could have done?
If the police could demonstrate you knew about the fraud as a director of Kellett Holdings, then yes. But from what they've told me, they're inclined to think that you're innocent. And even if they did suspect you, it's doubtful they could prove it.
So at least I won't be going to prison. Well, if that's the good news.
Well, the bad news, in a nutshell, is that he left massive debts behind him when he died. And his creditors will want to claw back as much of that money as possible.
And I'll have to pay it.
You've no liability for debts in his name only, or in Kellett Holdings' name.
But?
Unfortunately, he borrowed heavily from joint accounts he'd set up in both your names, and it's these debts you'll be liable for.
I had no idea he was doing that. How much are we talking about?
It's somewhere in the region of £40,000.
Well, I'll have the money from the flats. That should cover it, shouldn't it?
That's where the bad news really kicks in, I'm afraid. There are two problems with the writings. Number one, he never owned it in the first place. He transferred ownership to himself illegally using his company. And number two, any money from the sale of those flats will be soaked up paying off his debts. He owes the bank alone £250,000.
€250,000?
That might help put the 40,000 you owe into perspective.
But surely there must be something for me. From his will, from the business.
All his assets will go to paying off his debts, and even then a lot of his creditors won't get everything they're owed.
And when that's paid, there'll be nothing left.
That's about the measure of it.
Where do I find 40,000? I'll be penniless.
That's something you have to see your bank about. I can't help you there. Sorry.
There must be some money left over, Gail.
I told you, ma'am, it's all gone to the creditors.
Well, they must have made a mistake.
I've had those papers for weeks. They've gone through it with a fine-tooth comb.
So I'm one of Richard's creditors now, am I?
Well, my solicitor's only acting for me. He wouldn't know about you and Emily.
Oh, how could we be so stupid?
Well, you might be one of the lucky ones. Not all of Richard's dealings were illegal. That's why he got away with it for so long.
So where does that leave us?
Well, it leaves me with a huge remortgage to pay. And even if I could manage that, there's no way I can pay off debts of 40,000.
Well, have you got to pay him?
I've no choice.
So what are you going to do?
There's only one thing I can do. Sell the house.
And where are we going to live?
Good question.